Hi, I'm Nicola, and here's part 2 of my guide to U.S. elections for my friends in the United Kingdom and America. What I want to focus on today is how the U.S. got to a system where one party can control the White House, while another party controls one or both houses of Congress. This year, 2012, for example, Democrat in the White House, Republican majority in the House of Representatives, and Democratic majority in the Senate. I'll tell you how often this happens. Let me wind back the clock to 1945, a unified government. These are the results of the last election held during World War II. But the very next election, the Republicans took both houses of Congress. But following that, Harry Truman campaigned against the Republican do-nothing Congress. The Democrats swept. Now, I'm not going to describe every election. Let me just run the clock. Since 1945, all three branches have been the same party, only about a third of the time. In most years, there's a split. The executive from one party and at least one house of Congress in control of the opposition. In a modern parliamentary system, this just doesn't happen. The prime minister is always the leader of the party with a majority, or if no party has an absolute majority, the leader of a coalition of parties that can get together to form a majority. So why don't we do that in the U.S.? In a word which I'm going to make up on the spot, tyrannophobia, by which I do not mean fear of big dinosaurs with comically teeny arms. I mean fear of tyrants. Let's go back to the beginning. When the English first tried to settle in these shores in a colony that disappeared, back then there was no United Kingdom. The first Queen Elizabeth was on the throne. Shakespeare was in the playhouse. Scotland had their own king. But just a few years later, by the time of the first successful settlement, England, Scotland, and Ireland all had the same king, King James I. Name of the settlement? Oddly enough, Jamestown. Subtle. By the time of the American Revolution, you had taken to calling yourselves Great Britain, not yet the United Kingdom. That would still be a couple of decades into the future. You had by then chopped off a king's head and abolished the monarchy, then restored it. The monarchy, not the head. Over that period, power flowed from the throne to Parliament, from the aristocracy to the merchants, and sometimes some of that power flowed back. Usually these power flows took detours through the churches because just as today, in fact, even more so, a lot of politics is driven by, or at least expressed as, religious disputes. Now, in the years leading up to our revolution, some of the power in Great Britain had started flowing, temporarily as it turns out, back toward the throne. In 18th century Britain, politics was Whigs versus Tories, whatever Whigs are. Well, whatever they were, the Whigs argued that the legitimacy of government comes not because God wants kings to be sitting on the throne in charge of the rest of us, but rather it comes from the people. That radical Whig idea had huge influence on the leaders who drove American independence and who wrote our Constitution. That's why the Constitution starts with "we the people" and leaves God out altogether. Our founders, at all costs, wanted to avoid having a tyranny in America. Tyrannophobia. Of course there would be no king, but they even went so far as to try and set up a government with no executive at all, only a Congress. Most of the power remaining in the individual states. But that didn't work out. Why? Mainly money. There was still a lot of money owed for our Revolutionary War. Our habit of putting wars on the credit card is even older than the credit card. So, speaking of money, this guy, $10 Alexander Hamilton, got all persuady. He pushed the states to send representatives to a convention to work out a new arrangement. Hamilton's arguments to the states prevailed. And representatives from the states got together and worked out a set of rules. They set up a central government with a chief executive, the president, but they were careful not to allow all power to flow to the chief. Tyrannophobia. If those guys were alive today, I think they'd be game designers because they made it really difficult for any player to win all the power. Tyrannophobia. The rules they worked out, many of them compromises between big states and small, between northern states and southern, make up the Constitution of the United States. And one of the ways they kept any one branch of government from becoming too powerful was to put the elections on a complex, overlapping schedule. Elections for president happen every 4 years. For the House of Representatives, every 2. And for the Senate, now bear with me, members serve for 6 years, but they're divided into 3 classes, so in any given election, only 1/3 of the Senate is actually up for a change. So it makes it a lot easier to change one branch of government than it is to change them all. $10 Alex was a huge advocate for the new Constitution. He was one of the main authors of a set of pamphlets called the Federalists. that tried to sell the citizens on the merits of the new government. And by the way, he loved the Electoral College. He thought it was the bee's knees. Well, he didn't use those words. His words were, "If the manner of it be not perfect, it is at least excellent." In the next video, I'll tell you why. I'll also tell you what Alexander Hamilton did that undermined the whole philosophy of the Electoral College. But wait, there's more. And I'll also tell you why C.G.P. Gray's popular videos about the Electoral College are wrong. Well, he's good on the arithmetic. Well, his history, off the mark. Until next time, wait. Look for a bonus video today. I'm taking on a guest scriptwriter, Alexander Hamilton himself. I'm going to read from Federalist number 69, no giggling, the difference between the U.S. President and the King of Great Britain. Until bonus time, I'm Nicola.